So we can shift gears a little bit now. And I know that you are really a subject matter expert on a lot of things in this business because you have obviously the attorney background. I'm sure that when you see Remax and Redfin going up against the Justice Department and all of these other people, I know that's just like somebody throwing you a fastball right over the plate. What can you just open your book of knowledge up for a little bit and just give us a little bit of insight in terms of how you see what's going on right now with these lawsuits? What do you think the impact is going to be on the average real estate agent in this country? There's almost 1.5 million of us. How are our lives going to be impacted by all this?
That's a great question. I feel like, of course, like every lawyer, it depends. Literally we say that. It's like, it's not written in the books, but literally we're trained to say that kind of stuff, right? So I haven't forgotten that. It depends. But I will say this about it. It's interesting because, a year ago, everyone thought this was just going to go away. Brokers were not paying attention. If a broker's not paying attention, an agent's not paying attention, right? A lot of the information we get as real estate agents is through the lens of our brokerages, our memberships, and things like that, right? So I felt like we weren't talking about it enough last year. And the reason why I think that was a mistake is just because you have two choices in life. You can be reactive or proactive. And if you wait till the last minute, you end up reactive. Whereas if you can anticipate and know something's coming, you can become proactive. And then now you're making, to me, more informed, educated decisions about what you're going to do, right? And the impact it will have, because you have time to think about that. Whereas if you wait till you have to react, you end up making fast decisions and they're not always as well thought out as you would have liked for them to be, right? So having had some time myself to be thinking about these things over the last year, for example, because right now, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of the first trial, which is the one I believe that's out of Missouri, right? The other one I think is in Illinois. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's these two class action lawsuits happening right now. So one's actually in trial as the time we're recording. They're like halfway through of a 3-week trial. And then the second trial, which is the bigger, the $40 billion alleged damage trial, is set for sometime in early 2024, right? So to bring everyone up to speed, we've had 2 of the defendants settle, which is Anywhere, formerly known as Realogy. They, oversee the Better Homes and Gardens brand, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, I believe Sotheby's, ERA. They settled for about 83 million, more or less, and some other terms. And then Remax settled for about 55 million and some terms as well. And part of those terms, I think the biggest one was that they were not going to require their brokers and franchisees to have to affiliate with NAR, and that it could be a choice. And so that happened just in weeks leading up to the trial start date, right? And so right now the remaining defendants are Keller Williams, NAR, and Home Services of America. Most people know them as Berkshire Hathaway. And so, reading the transcripts of these trials has always been, sometimes I read it out loud to my husband, and really it's just like the reporting on it. And my husband and I kind of chuckle. It's like, did they just say that? And really the part of what's ridiculous about the whole thing is that you do have people making decisions about our industry that really don't understand it. Because for better or for worse, we have done a really great job or a really terrible job of communicating what we actually do and what we experience, right? So because we've not explained to people really what we do as well as we probably should, people think that we get paid too much and don't do anything. And we all know that that's not accurate, right? But one of the merits of the case is, basically that the challenge is this payment of compensation to a buyer's agent without negotiation. And I told people, it's like, well, that's both true and false, right? So it's true in that a listing agent is negotiating the compensation for both sides, right? When they go into a listing appointment, there is that negotiation, right? And the seller is often signing off saying, I agree to pay the listing agent X and a co-broke if they're involved, Y, whatever those numbers are. And so there's a negotiation there and an opportunity to negotiate. But what makes the challenge or the allegation interesting when you think about it, though, is that for a buyer's agent, whether you are brand new, super experienced and sold 100 homes, or been in the business 30 years, you get paid the same.
I have preached that forever. Yes.
Arguably that's a problem, right? So people with more experience should get paid arguably more. People with less experience paid less. Like in most industries, that's naturally how it works. But in ours, that is that one place where that's the biggest challenge, right? And that is a fact, right? That happens that way. So that's part of what they're challenging. And so they're trying to decouple the compensation, but there's a lot of challenges with that, right? I mean, to expect a buyer to pay for their own representation, some can afford it, but many probably will not be able to afford it. And, it'll be the people that really need it that are the ones that won't be able to afford it. Like perhaps, like our VA borrowers. Currently, as it stands right now, they can't pay anything. They can't even pay our transaction fees. So how are they going to be able to have representation in their transaction without somebody else agreeing to pay for that representation?
That's right.
So that's one party that will be negatively affected by this. Another party are our first-time home buyers. If we decouple compensations, and the biggest thing is whether they decouple it or not, I hope that it's never made illegal or against the rules for a seller to pay a buyer's agent. It should be, at worst case, flexible, meaning a seller can choose to or choose not to, and a buyer can choose to pay their own or choose to request it from the seller, right? At least if we get to that place, that's where I hope it lands and not become this requirement that everyone pay for their own representation. Because another party that will be impacted is VAs, first-time home buyers, which according to NAR represent about 26% of home buyers from last year. And then of course we have our lower income or our retirees. They also will need assistance, right? I mean, we could have retirees who want to sell their home, but are afraid to because they won't have the help to buy the next home, right? And get them in the communities that they need to get into. So those are some of the potential concerns and consequences of this. I do think that more than ever, buyers agents need to use buyer brokerage agreements. You never show, you don't list a house without a listing agreement. Why are we showing homes without buyer brokerage agreements, right? And even just so it's clear, again, managing expectations about how the agent is getting paid, because we're not in a business where we're supposed to work for free, right? And none of us want to work for free. But at the same time, we need to be clear on, if I am going to do the work, this is what I will be paid, whatever that is. And so that needs to happen. And so buyer's agents need to get better at articulating their value and, getting the customer and the client to truly see, like, hey, these are all the things I'm going to do. I'm going to help make this transaction smoother for you because I know this, because I know that, because I can direct you here, because I can help manage your expectations, because I can be the safe harbor in the storm. Because we all know how emotional the real estate transaction is, right? So there's so many places where we can bring value to the customer, and it's just, we've got to get really, really good and clear about how to articulate that. So instead of someone wants to see a house, no, we don't see houses till we've had a consultation. I need to understand what you're looking for. I need to understand what you need so I can tell you how I can help you and I can provide those solutions. And then not only that, I'm going to also ask for your loyalty in working with me, your commitment, right? And here's my buyer brokerage agreement. And so I think that's a positive outcome that can come from all of this. But as a consequence, I think we'll see a lot of agents, good majority of real estate professionals sell 1, 2, 2 or 3 homes a year. And I think that if we continue down this path, it'll be harder and harder for them to do those 1, 2, or 3 transactions, for it to be worth paying the dues, worth all of that effort if they aren't really fully able to commit to the industry as a career. And hopefully, I think a consequence of that is we'll start to see more full-time committed professionals to our industry. And that will be good for us as a whole. And I think it'll be good for consumers. And I think at the end of the day, will probably cause us to lose a few of that 1.5 million realtors.
It's thinning of the herds. I think it's necessary. Right?
Yeah, we could benefit from that, couldn't we?
Right,
Everybody
yeah.
could.